Good evening and welcome into another edition of Star V Sundays here on the Believe Podcast Network alongside Joe Bulovas. As always, I'm your host, Billy Derrick, and this week we're joined by former Commodore Ben Bresnahan, former Vanderbilt tight end, of course, played 3 years under Derek Mason, 2 with Coach Lea, year 1 and year 2 there under Coach Lea, just like Joe over here. And, it's an interesting story, because we talked a lot about, the early build with Joe, Ben, under Coach Lea. And I'm really interested to get your perspective on that as well. But Ben is also a current member of the DC Defenders, coming off a title last year, hoping to repeat this season. So looking forward to it. But former Commodore Ben Bresnahan with us. Ben, how's it going, my man?
It's good, man. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on here today. Excited to talk some Vandy football, little UFL in there as well. And yeah, man, just all football stuff. Come on.
Hey, there seems to be an animal on your face there, brother. Did we lose our razor in the past few weeks?
Hey, man, it's, it was like 38 on Monday. It's getting a little chilly out here in Nashville. So I got to.
Oh, so it's a protective layer of warmth?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Come on now.
No, it looks sharp, man. You've had that forever. Everybody who doesn't know Ben knows he's had some facial hair for the past several years. Just a lumberjack looking guy.
A little bit
strong
different.
Paul Bunyan type dude.
A little bit different than freshman and sophomore year Ben at Vandy.
Yeah, definitely different for sure, man. I was the clean shaven, and then I was like, wait, I can actually grow a beard. Let's do it, man. So
big curl guy too. Loves to get after in the weight room.
Big curl guy. Okay. Ben, I want to start. I want to start with just some of your personal background, even before you got to Vandy. Obviously, a native of Georgia. Yeah, I'm sure you always had a dream of playing football in the SEC, and obviously recruited by Coach Mason and his staff. What originally drew you to Vandy? And obviously, your Vandy career is an interesting one. It's really up and down. Some high highs, obviously some low lows, unfortunately. But I mean, for you, just before you even got to Vanderbilt, what was that, kind of that recruiting process like for you, and what drew you to West End?
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially being from Georgia, a little biased, but I'd say probably the best state for high school athletes getting into college. But it was, definitely a hotbed for just recruiting, like all colleges to come down and, check out our school at West Forsyth. And I had, forget the exact number now. It's been kind of getting old here. What was that? Freshman year it was 18. So, I think it was
Ben just celebrated his 32nd birthday, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, like I had definitely a good amount of offers coming out, fair amount. I think I was 6 SEC offers from like Ole Miss, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vandy, obviously. And yeah, I mean, I grew up, academics was always a huge thing for me, but also my sister went to Georgia, and I just grew up around like the SEC with her, and then just family as well. So I always kind of knew I was leaning that way. And then Vandy really just was the best combination of, all that was the playing in the top league, and as well as academics too. So.
Sweet. Well, I am interested too. Once you get to Vanderbilt, obviously you mentioned the ups and downs, but kind of fast forward to when, and Joe and I got pretty deep into this, and I think one of our first couple of episodes, just the psychology of changing a program and building a program is what Clark Lea had to do. And Joe has talked about how, Joe, were you the first recruit for Barton and Clark? Did I get that right?
Yeah. So I was actually the first guy that committed to them.
Oh, first guy that committed, right?
Yeah. So I believe in the 2021 recruiting class, I was the only guy that staff brought in at the time because it was a change of staff. And I actually didn't know that until about a year ago. I didn't pay any attention to that. I had no idea, but the only guy that they brought in on scholarship coming into the first season with Coach Lea and Barton's regime was myself. And I didn't know that until I was at a little luncheon, and Barton's sitting up there on a Friday afternoon before one of the games last season. And he said, so the first recruit we ever brought in on scholarship is actually sitting back there in a pink gingham shirt. I'm like, holy cow, that's me. I was like, I had no idea. But yeah, so we went from, I guess, one guy to doing things the normal way, but that was a very unconventional year, obviously coming off of a COVID year and new staff coming in. And I think I love the fact that Coach Lee and Barton honored the guys who committed to Vanderbilt out of high school instead of kind of leaving them high and dry because it was really late in this recruiting cycle, right? I mean, signing day is February the 7th ish, somewhere in there. Back then, you didn't have two signing periods; you had one.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I really respected the decision to keep all those commitments, which I think is the right thing to do. But yeah, I guess I was the first one. Didn't realize that until pretty recently.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm that because I thought I'd heard you told me that. But the perspective of Joe, obviously coming from Alabama, and Ben, 3 years under Coach Mason, and then Coach Lee comes in, and as an alum, you in the back of your mind, you had to believe, okay, this guy should, look, he'll come in with a vision, right? You knew that he wanted to be there, but as a player, when a new coach comes in, there's a feeling out process and a trust that has to be developed there. I think you were one of the guys alongside Gavin Schoenwald and Davion Davis and guys like that were core pieces. Joe and there's so many other, Marlon Sewell, who's still there, Richie Hoskins and guys like that. Those guys are as important as Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers right now. And I think those are interesting conversations to have. So what was that process like from your perspective, a guy that had been in the program and knew how things were run before Coach Lee got there, and then how Coach Lee was forced to sort of change the psychology of a program and start the foundation?
Yeah, I mean, it really was like great transit. I mean, it was a little slower maybe than we wanted it to be at first, but obviously anything great that's worth building is going to take a little time. And, I think it was really weird because after Mason left, obviously, like, it was, all right, am I going to stay here? Am I going to go somewhere else? So then, Barton and Coach Lee also like came in and met with me, Gav, like Cam Johnson, a couple of those guys, Davion and all that. And it's like kind of weird dynamic of like, we're vetting them out a little bit. They're vetting us out a little bit. Like, all right, are we really going to like retain these guys? Are you going to buy into our message? And it's like, all right, do we like your message? Are we going to buy into it? And I mean, for me and Gav, and obviously like it was like just what Coach Lee and Barton were really, saying what they're wanting to do and their vision was for Vanderbilt football. I was like, all right, dude, I'm in. Like, come on. So I was like, I don't need to sign another letter of intent or anything, but I'm, definitely here for next 2 years for sure, or one for sure, maybe two. And so it was a really great decision. And, it's just interesting to see there's a little growing pains, but like just the vision that Coach Lee has and his leadership. I know he's even now molded into, and he's gotten better, I feel like, as you can see, at least on the field, like each year in terms of where he's tweaked maybe his leadership here and there, and also keeping it consistent on like what his standard is as well. It's been great to see. So.
Yeah, and Joe, like I said, Joe and I have kind of gone back and forth on this, and Coach Lee has even said that he had to sort of change the mindset and the perspective of how you guys operated and because like I said, when a new coach comes in, there is that feeling out process. But with Coach Lee, like you said, you bought in fairly quickly. So what do you think caused, and I've asked Joe this before, what caused that second year under Coach Lee, which people forget about? It was a 5-7 season, and Joe has talked about the talent that was on that team. I mean, you and Gavin, great tight end tandem, and of course Mike Wright and Ray Davis and some talent on that team. Maybe not as much depth as there is now, but yeah, that was a solid group that was one win away from a bowl berth. And of course, year 3 was a tough season. But how were you guys so quickly able to get to 5 wins and on the cusp of a bowl game?
I mean, I think it really just like kind of came down to the consistent messaging and like accountability piece that he really brought. And he, we had our captains group, we had our leadership group in the team, and just kind of having that consistent messaging and, really holding each other accountable, which is like one of our, pillars that the program is still has, is that true brotherhood piece, accountability. And so just that consistent messaging he always mentioned in our team meetings, but also just around like the building as well, that you just always see it on the field. We have it on like the camera tower too. It's all listed out there, the 5 pillars that we have. And I think just that messaging that was so consistent and like not letting anybody because I mean, you don't want to talk too much about like the old regime or anything like that with Mason, because I love Mason as, he's a really great coach as well. But I think, just the accountability on even like if you're the starter or if you're a walk-on who's not playing at all, it's like everybody's held to the same standard and not kind of letting that slide at all. And that's what I really appreciated. So.
Joe?
Yeah, man. So obviously you and I are really good friends and stuff like that. And but I wouldn't say I was late to the transition of when Coach Lee got here and Barton got here. And we've talked about this a few times, but to pick your brain a little bit and for the people out there, what were those? And I know Coach Lee talked about it to no end about how hard it was that first winter, spring, and summer. I was only there for the summer of year one. So call it, January of 2021 onward. I got there in May or late May. But kind of walk us through what it looked like when Coach Lee first got here and you guys were doing winter conditioning, winter workouts, and it almost became like lore of Vanderbilt football of like, this is where we started from. This is how hard it is to win the SEC. We're doing it now, but not too many people realize how hard it was and where we came from. So with that, take it away from that period of time.
Yeah, it was that first winter. I mean, it was really stripping everything down to bare bones and like starting from scratch, man. Like we, Coach Horgan, our strength coach at the time, he had some time with Coach Lee at Wake Forest. And so they knew each other well. And dude, we literally were out in the freezing cold, like that first January, whenever we got back. And we started out which Joe, I don't know if you mentioned already this before at all on these shows or not, but we started out in literally like Hanes t-shirts, Hanes shorts.
Yeah, but
humble
beginnings.
And we had to earn, and there was like certain levels that we had to earn. It was like, first you have to get like literally going from Hanes to the Vanderbilt football logo, but it was still blacked out on your shirt. So you didn't even fully earn it yet. And then after we kept going through winter workouts and everything, and you actually got some color with the gold on the Vanderbilt football, and then you earned your number on the back. And, it was just all about really kind of really having those standards of the program and showing that not just on the field, but also like in the leadership throughout the locker room and with the other guys and whole staff and everything. And once you keep like consistently showing that they really bought in, then you get to, step up that pedestal and, get the color and your jersey number and everything like that. So, but yeah, that first one, it was definitely had to get it out the mud.
Yeah. I want to ask both you guys this. The Kentucky game in Lexington to break the 24-game SEC losing streak, I think was special for not, of course, you guys, Coach Lee, emotional after the game, but for the Vanderbilt fans that knew what Coach Lee was coaching and preaching would work eventually. That was sort of I don't know about it wasn't the apex, but that was a sort of a tipping point early in the tenure to say, hey, they're on the right track. And what was that like? I know going back, Coach Lee had said that half the team was dealing with a cold. I think Coach Lee was dealing with it himself, and you guys get an
like
ugly
a hospital
win.
wing, man. I remember that week.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. Yeah. I mean, dude, that was like a mini breakthrough for us for sure. Ranked on the road, ranked SEC team, and we went in, and I didn't even think Kentucky came out on the field because it was so cold out there, and all the fellas with the colds or not, like we were still out there in our mask on that Diego was wearing to the pregame walkout the other day, but we were actually wearing it because it was freezing cold out there, snowing. That was just definitely like one of the mini breakthroughs. It's like, all right, we're on the right track. Like everybody's already bought into, Coach Lee in the locker room, but obviously as fans, you don't get to see that side of it. So it's like great to, see that for as fans on the outside. It's all right, these guys are, on the right track, and like, we're not listening to outside noise, and we know that we're doing the right thing to, get to where the fellas are now. And that was definitely a huge moment for us. And I'll never forget, because after the game, everybody was so excited, so lit. And then I just ran and saw Candace Lee too out there. And I was like, we've already known each other pretty well, like everything. We haven't had like too deep conversations or whatever, but I just saw her, and I remember giving her like the biggest hug afterwards. And it was a pretty great moment though for the boys for sure. I know, Joe, what do you got over there for that?
I knew something was cooking in that pregame because they were finding, and Ben, you'll appreciate this, Kentucky was finding the soft spaces of not coming out, and we embraced that. Specialists, we're the first guys out there typically, so we're out there trying to stay warm and stretch, and and it's sleeting, the field's frozen. And the funny thing about all this is that it was like 70, 75 degrees the night before. We're driving up in the buses. I mean, it is pristine. I'm like, golly, this is pretty, you know. You see all the
Mhm.
horse farms, the horse tracks, and these huge barns everywhere, white picket fences all around. It's just a scene from a postcard. And then front comes through. I wake up in the morning, pull the shades back, and oh wow, there's an inch or two of snow on the ground, and my Apple weather says it's 28. Okay. And then, but like when we got to the field, got to the stadium, we're the first guys out there, and then they bring the whole team out. Like all of our guys come out, and it's just like a party. It's like everybody took the adversity and embraced it, and we turned it into a strength for us. I think Ben would say the same thing. Like we were all having a blast, having fun, competing, and it was a phenomenal celebration after. It was a great bus ride back.
Yeah,
For sure.
I bet it was. And then the next week, you go beat Florida at home for the first time since 1988, and that game. You talk about the weather in that game. One of the weirder weather games because it was bright and sunny outside, like no clouds at all, but like mid 40s. it was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember in the press box, I had sunglasses on and like 5 layers. It was strange, but. To get those back-to-back wins, obviously it didn't end the way you guys wanted it to. There was some momentum going into that last game there against Tennessee. Joe, that was your last game as a Commodore, right?
Oh yeah, that was
And
my
then-
last one. Yeah.
And then Ben,
Yeah, me
for you
too,
too,
as well.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunate, but those 2 wins there, it's not just about 2 games in a season, but for both of you guys, it had to feel rewarding. And I know year 3 of the Lee era was not great, but now year 4 and year 5 for you guys, was that year 2 sort of in your heads like, okay, this thing will get going, and it had already gotten going a little bit. I mean, like I said, you guys were 1 win away from a bowl game, and then of course the 2-10 season followed. But I mean, Ben, for you guys to start, like that had to have been reassuring as a player to know that, hey, this program's in good hands, even if we didn't get to a bowl game, which was one of our goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I already knew that we were definitely on the right track, and I know the year after we left was a little drop, but I think it's a testament though to like Coach Lee and Barton. I think even from their first recruit Joe Bulovas, which I was not aware of earlier that they got in, but
Just
I
a
think
small
Barton's really
fish in the
transitioned.
bigger pond.
But they've transitioned so well, and it's like, I mean, he's truly like a GM now, which is crazy that college teams have GMs like that, and just the way that like. It's just such a crazy, world with all the transfer and everything going on. But I think both Barton and Coach Lee and the rest of the staff have done a great job of like, using both the high school recruiting as a big thing and really developing and investing in the guys, but also like using the transfer portal as a way to really fill potential gaps or just like be able to get guys in that we really like who are going to fit the program and fit, the culture. And I think they've just done a great job of kind of like molding into that and really keeping up with the times and excelling at it and doing a lot better than a lot of the other teams I feel like in the country.
And then I want to get to your DC Defenders stuff a little bit later. I'll kind of give you a chance to fill Vandy fans in on what you've been up to, but now you're a fan. You're an alum that comes back to these games. Joe obviously is as well, and there's other players like you guys that love the program. A lot of it is because Coach Lee, but a lot of it is to Coach Mason, like you said, also gave you your first opportunity as well at the college level. So for you now watching and kind of tracking the Diego Pavia and New Mexico State pipeline as they came in, Joe and I have talked a lot about this. When did you know, Ben, that you thought, okay, obviously the Alabama win, that for a lot of people, that was the kicker there. When was there a moment where you knew, okay, this thing could be really special?
I mean, honestly, not even like the first time I met Diego was before the season. And we were actually just playing like cards together, like with him and a couple other fellows at just, one of the boys' houses. And there's already just like certain little different aura about the boy that I was like, all right, this guy maybe, see what he's got. And, we were playing, like I said, cards, a little poker, blackjack, whatever. And that was kind of the first moment I was like, all right, I'm pretty excited to see what the boys got this year. And then obviously before the Bama win and all that, and then it's taken off where it is now. But that was kind of my first interaction with him, and I was like, all right, I can maybe get behind this guy. So,
well, and Joe and I have talked so much about it. It's like, I don't think Vanderbilt's had a player quite like Diego Pavia. And you go back to what Mike was able to do for you guys at the quarterback spot. It's not easy. It's not easy to get one win in the NSEC play. You guys were able to get two there back to back. And like I said, one went away from a bowl game. And Joe, we've talked about this. What has worked in the past for Vanderbilt is athletic, mobile quarterbacks. And obviously a great running back and some other offensive pieces, but typically in Vanderbilt's history, an athletic guy like a Pavia or a Jordan Rogers, obviously a Mike Wright, you go back and look at some of the past quarterbacks. You mentioned the foresight of Clark and Barton to make those adjustments, Ben. They did that after you guys left. And that to me is as impressive as anything, Joe, to sort of strip, Clark Lea had to look in the mirror, and he did, and he's talked a lot about that and brought in Coach Kill and Beck. But, that takes a lot of foresight, but a lot of, unselfishness too, to say, hey, we need to strip what we're doing and go in a different direction.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And what I wish we had a little bit more of whenever I was there is I love the 14 personnel package with the 4 tight ends in the game nowadays. I mean, that's
hey, out of yourself and into the team, Ben. All right.
I understand. I love the boy Fish knocking out one of the Auburn guys last week on a little split throw, and that was pretty electric.
Yeah, they might need to do a house call for that cat, see if he's all right still.
And that was Auburn's best, one of their best defensive players, like great linebacker who actually transferred in for LSU. So that, that you mentioned the 14 personnel, and it does remind me a little bit of how you and Gavin were used. Now you guys, it was you and Gavin, and then who was Justin Ball as well, right?
Yeah, Justin Ball, J Ball too. Yep.
Yeah,
we had a good amount. We did a lot of 12, not too much 13 or 14. I mean, not near as much as what they're doing now. But yeah, we definitely did. I felt like more than average team, multiple tight end sets. So it was really good. I mean, obviously I love that, a little biased, but
yeah.
always love
well,
it.
You mentioned the tight ends. I want to get your perspective. Joe, every time, we talked a lot about, we've talked about Brock. I like getting Joe's perspective on him. And I think Brock said his goal line before the season, Joe was 57, 58, something like that, which is crazy. When we talked about the situations like that, like the 4th and 1, where, you don't, Clark still, said he has full trust in Brock, obviously. But for your perspective for the tight ends, what have you seen from, we know what Eli Stowers is about, and that kind of, his performances have spoken for themselves. But for a guy like Cole Spence, I mean, you played with him, so, obviously so did Joe, and he looks like a totally different player. What have you seen from him and his development, especially since you're in the same room with him?
Yeah, man. I mean, and I remember, it was just yesterday whenever he was a young buck in the room, and now he's the old head of the group. So I love seeing his, development, and just like, I don't know how heavy he was, because there's another Georgia guy too. He went to Mount Pisgah in the Atlanta area. And I forget exactly what he weighed whenever he came in, but like last couple of years, Coach Stein and fellas, Coach Horgan his first 2 years, but like they've put some mass in the boy, that's for sure. And he's looking great, and he's, being dominant in the run game and in the pass game too, being able to, him and Eli kind of both supplement each other in the pass game. But his development, he's definitely, I've always been the biggest Cole Spence fan, and just to see him be able to really grow each year has been huge. And I know, I was, at least in the bowl game last year, I was so excited for him to get that little pop pass, and I didn't know they're going to bring it out in OT this past week, but I was excited to see another tight end pop pass for the dub last week for Cole as well. So it's been awesome to see him really develop as a person on and off the field.
And I stumbled upon a Hustler piece actually, Ben, and I didn't realize that you originally looked like you were headed to play baseball in college. A great baseball player. Pitcher, outfielder, great hitter. I didn't realize that. Was there a thought about potentially playing baseball? Were there any conversations with Corbs there?
Actually my first love was baseball. So, that was my sophomore year of high school. I came to Vandy camp and got to know Corbs pretty well. But then kind of after like later on in my high school career, just started loving football more. So I just really locked into that instead. Only had one offer in baseball out of high school. So I was like, all right, I'm going to hang up and just lock in on the Friday nights and, just dive into that. And, the love of the game for football has really grown and still got it. So we're still playing and having fun and loving it, man.
I love it. Well, like I said, Joe and I, we started that, a lot of this was, Joe kind of took initiative and said, man, I think it'd be really cool to start a sort of a platform for alums. And we want to kind of keep this going in a way that gives you guys a voice, but also lets the players, the coaches, the fans know that the alums, care. And so for you right now, how special, obviously we talked a little bit about last year, but this year, the team 8-2, you win these next two games, probably in the playoff, and we'll see what happens around the country, of course, but a lot of carnage, should happen. What is that? I mean, what's that like for you to look at this program now as a guy that played here and put your blood, sweat, and tears here, still playing, of course, at the professional level, but to see them on the precipice of the college football playoff?
I mean, I don't really, I guess, know how to put it in words. I just know, like, from our experience on, like, where we came from and, like, trying to help build a foundation of what, it is now. It's very rewarding for myself. And it's also just so exciting to see, those guys, like those Cole Spences of the team who, like, was also earlier in Clark's time as well, and really just buying in fully and being able to, reap me and Joe's hard work back there in 21, 22, and, being able to really kind of enjoy just seeing those fellas like the Cole, Richie Hoskins, those type of dudes who have really invested all in this program and have, been able to show how much they can do and how much love they have for Vandy football as well.
I got to ask, could Joe have played, like if Joe would have played a position outside of kicker, do you think he's more of a linebacker type or a fullback H-back? Like where are we putting Joe if he's not a kicker?
Oh, man, I don't know the last time I've seen you catch any football as Joe. So I'm going to have to say linebacker just at the start. And maybe after running a couple of routes with me and the fellas, then we'll see where we're at, maybe on fullback tight end.
It's probably a good thing that you haven't seen me run routes, because if you were out in front of me, you'd be on roller skates.
I don't know about that, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I might embarrass a few cats out there. Not necessarily Ben. I'll give you that. He's pretty stable on his feet. He's got a wide base. He'd probably jam me up pretty good. But you know what? I told Coach Lazinski one time, I was like, if I could come back and just have 1 year for whatever, I'd suit up for him. I'd give him what I had, but I'd definitely be left bench.
Oh, man.
Last thing I got.
But you're not going to see me going out there trying to kick any field goals. So we'll be good.
Yeah, let's address that, because every tight end secretly wants to be a specialist. And guess who's snapping a football now?
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's good. That's good.
He actually does it really, really well. So
yeah,
there's that.
Well, let's
trying to add value, man.
Let's get into that. The DC Defenders, obviously. I had totally forgotten about this. I knew that about you, Ben, but I think there's probably some Vandy fans out there that have either forgotten or kind of lost track of sort of what you've been up to. You guys won the UFL title last year, trying to repeat this year. What has your journey post Vanderbilt been like for you? The process to the UFL, obviously, the NFL dreams. This is how you keep it alive, right? And continuing to play football. So what has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been good, man. I mean, like, I had short stints. I was a cup of coffee with the Chiefs and the Falcons in their mini camps, and then was just kind of waiting on a call to get into an NFL camp in the fall, and then onto a team potentially on P squad, working my way up. But then I wasn't in the cards at the time, so then ended up I was thrown here in town with now my starting QB from DC. He lives here in Nashville as well, which is nice. And then he was like, dude, I'm going to talk to my GM about you, and like, we're going to get you into UFL if you don't sign with an NFL team. I was like, all right, man, I'm in. So yeah, that was like spring of 24 whenever I went out there. And then first year was we weren't the greatest. We just had a couple issues, a couple of missing pieces. But then this past year, whenever I signed back with them, everything was clicking this past year. And it's cool how they're like, it's 8 teams right now in the UFL. Like I said, I'm with DC, but even with all 8 teams actually live in like the Dallas, Arlington area and in Texas, and just kind of have our hub there where we all share a nice meeting facility right by AT&T Stadium and Globe Life Field there for the Rangers. And pretty sweet. I mean, setup honestly is pretty. I mean, we fly to our home games technically, but it's really efficient what they got going on, and that's the goal, is to get more film on and get back to the NFL. And I think this past year, out of I think it was like 450 give or take players in the league, I think 70 plus got into NFL camps, and there's still a good amount who are now active or P squad guys in the league. So that's definitely really college football is minor league NFL, but now hopefully UFL going into year 4 of the league, it's really turned into a solid minor league for the NFL as well. So excited to be back for another year and try to chase another ring. We actually had Andre Mintz, Vandy alum as well, on my team this past year, and so he was balling. He had a bunch of sacks, and it's nice to have a couple of Vandy alum in the league.
Well, and it's good to see. Obviously, Vanderbilt's got some NFL players, but it is cool to see alums at the UFL level, the XFL. You got the Nashville Cats as well, a local. I guess is the Arena Football League. I guess I don't even know if they're actually calling that. That's what they're calling it anymore. But it's cool. Cool to see. But one other thing, Tight End University. Have you been making a stop into Tight End U over at Vanderbilt at all the last few years?
Yeah, I have. I mean, it was crazy how much it's just gotten so huge. Because I went there for 1 or 2 years whenever I was still at Vandy, like still playing in 21 and 22, and we were only at that point able to sit in like on the back of meetings and everything in the team room, but not participate in any of the extracurriculars, on the field workouts and all that stuff. But then the last 2 years since I've been, in the league for a little bit, and then in that UFL, like I've been invited back both of those times. And it's such a cool event. Obviously, to be able to hear the fellas in the meetings and everything, and hear Travis, Kelsey, and George, and those guys talk about the game through their eyes is pretty spectacular, just to hear that. And then now actually being able to go out and on the field and really work it, and also being able to hang out with them off the field as well. We had a fun event last year whenever, I don't know if all the viewers here saw, whenever Taylor Swift performed, but that was a pretty cool event. Definitely, I was not aware that she was going to be in town, but I was like, there's a lot more security out here than last year, so I'm a little interested in maybe she's going to be here. So that was good.
Okay, so you were in the building for that.
I was in the building for that, yeah. She was up top already, like in our VIP section, and then like later on in the night, like she had disappeared. We're like, all right, where is she going? Like, is she going to go perform right now? And then so there she came out, and it was pretty spectacular.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
One thing about Ben is, one of his best traits is his humility. He just came off a really, really solid year with DC, and he didn't speak at all about it. So we're really proud of him as Vandy alums and former players of Ben's, of the hell of a job he's done with DC, and we know there's a lot more out there for him, and so we're excited to see where that takes him.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, Ben, appreciate it, man. I know we've met a few times, but I think this is a cool look at the alum's perspective, and a guy that was you could say molded by Coach Lea. Obviously, Coach Mason recruited you, but had some really good moments and some important moments under Coach Lea and for the build, and a big part of what is in place right now. So thanks for the time, and obviously good luck. Well, I know you got some off-season work you'll be getting into, and maybe we'll see you at the Kentucky game and potentially in the college football playoff.
I know. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys' time today, and let's go, man. Come on, we got to go 1-0 next week, and then 1-0 in Neyland, and then we're going to be wherever we go. So
appreciate it, Ben.
I appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
There you have it, Ben Bresnahan, former Vanderbilt tight end, teammate of Joe Bulovas. Obviously, that group, Joe. I think there's something to be said about guys like you and Ben, and obviously played with Richie there at early tenure of Clark Lea, and same deal with Marlon Sewell, Miles Capers, and talk about guys like Cam. He mentioned Cameron Johnson, a local kid that put his blood, sweat, and tears for Vanderbilt and loved Vanderbilt, and ended up transferring to Northwestern and had got a great opportunity. And same deal with Mike Wright, who loved Vanderbilt. There were a lot of players that loved Vanderbilt and may have parted ways, and totally fine, right? You and Joe and some other guys Ken ended up going to TCU, of course, but there's a lot of guys that really cared and had a will to win and were talented. But I'm glad that you guys do have the opportunity to see a season like this and a season like last year for the program. And year two, we talked about you guys were on the doorstep of a bowl game, but that was that's a good group.
Yeah, it was a fantastic group, man. Those guys were every guy that I played with at Vandy, I consider a really good friend, and that's really special to me and to all the guys that we played with is we have that bond of that very special time where only we knew just how hard it was starting out to build the foundation. And Coach Lee always preaches that success is never linear. And that's very true.
Seldom
There
linear.
were some ups. It was all but linear. It was really, really cool to see guys that made the commitment really after year one. There were a large number of guys that made the commitment for year one because it just came off of a no-win season. We got a catalyst for something new, a new coach, new perspective, new philosophy. But it was really the guys who stuck it out from year one to year two that didn't leave that I have a ton of respect for. And Ben and I have talked about that. And every guy who really stuck through to year two, we have conversations about that every so often of how hard it was year one, so close year two. But like I said before, there's a lot of talent, but there were so many great, great people that put their everything and they're all into Vanderbilt football. And people kind of overlooked that. The year two and the guys that made the initial commitment laid the foundation. We didn't get the results that we wanted, but this year and then last year have really been just phenomenal for the fan base and the university and the program and even the city as a whole. That we lucky few remember what Vanderbilt was beforehand, and even though we were, the building blocks to what is to come, we still resonate with the program because we all knew it's only a matter of time before we see that type of success because there's so many great people involved, like Ben, one of the best guys around, Gavin, Schoenwald, Davion Davis, heck, even Langston Patterson was there at the time, year two.
Yeah.
You just had a lot of really high character guys playing their tails off and trying to build something out of this program. So great group.
Yeah, and that's part of why obviously we started this, to get that platform up and rolling. And it's awesome to hear from guys like Ben, obviously Jordan Matthews last week, and you're hoping to keep that rolling. So we'll keep kind of the interview series going, especially in some of the downtime. We'll have a couple down weeks, before their playoff game. So, but Joe, we got to get to the theme of the week, of course. Every football piece of content, whether it's an article, board post, podcast, press conference, what have you, is all brought to you by Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James, courtesy of Mr. Joe Bulovas. If there's one thing we all share, it's that our lives are all unique. At Raymond James, they believe that's worth celebrating because financial planning isn't just about numbers and figures. It's about creating the life that you envision. So whether you're building a future or preparing for retirement, Joe right here can guide you each step of the way, all while following a plan that's uniquely yours. That's life well planned. To learn more, give Joe a call, 615-645-6742, or log on to raymondjames.com/Bulovas Wealth Management. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Joe, we got a cool deal going on these next couple of months, don't you?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a theme this week, but what I am offering is I'm going to make my calendar available to basically anybody who would like another set of eyes on their portfolio, their investments, and their financial planning. So I'm essentially offering free financial planning reviews for anybody that wants a second set of eyes on things, wants to get a second opinion. When you go get an ACL surgery, you don't just say, "Hey, oh, yep, cut me open, doctor," the first guy you see. This is kind of that's an extreme version of that, but this is another way of saying, "Hey, let's take another set of eyes on things. Let's take a step back. Let's review." It's a great opportunity to do that, especially at the end of the year as you're going into the new year. We at Raymond James, we're really focused when you break it down to three things: getting you the best pricing, the best performance, and the best service. And so at our disposal within those three, we're going to be extremely tax efficient, we're going to be extremely fee efficient, and we're going to have the access to the private markets, which you can't find at every institution. So we have a lot to offer from an actual financial planning and investment perspective, but it's all about putting you in the right position now and down the road to ensure that you have the best opportunity to be successful. And so, like I said before, I'm offering free financial planning reviews for anyone out there who would like a second set of eyes on things. It's always a good idea, especially as you get into the new year.
I love it. I love it. And again, Joe's website has all kinds of information. You can contact Joe there. You can get to know Joe a little bit more, of course, on the website. They've got sort of a submission message box. And again, Joe, just your email so that people that, if they do want to sit down and schedule, that free consultation per se, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my email is a great way to reach me. I'm very attentive to my email, and my email is Joe, period, Bulovas, Bulovas, at raymondjames.com. You're more than happy to reach me on my work phone at 615-645-6742. I'm very attentive to both of them. My work phone, however, that's for calls only. So if you text that number, I ain't gonna get it. But email is a great way to get in touch with me and voice out your concerns or questions. And I'm always happy to help out or at least point you in the right direction, no matter who you are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: just my time dealing with Joe. You send him a message, he'll get back to you immediately. He's on top of everything. So again, joe.bulovas at raymondjames.com. All right. Let's get into this game here, Joe. I want to go for another 8 to 10 minutes here on this Kentucky matchup, and we'll have time to talk about Tennessee, of course, because the bye week kind of sandwiched in here between the last game, of course, the win over. Why am I forgetting who they just beat? Auburn, of course. 40. There's been so many.
Yeah.
This season has been a little bit of a blur, Joe. So it's a lot of it feels like almost it's running together here. But Kentucky in Nashville, last home game for Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers. We'll see who ends up coming back. I'm hesitant to say anybody else because obviously we've got Langston and Issa Wataha actually. Well, Issa Wataha will get likely a medical red shirt, so he'll be back anyway. But Langston Patterson fighting for more eligibility, and a couple more guys. You could see. I think there's a possibility Capers comes back, so we'll see what happens. But the last home game in a Vanderbilt uniform for a lot of guys because this is an old group. I mean, we've talked about it, Joe. So that part of it.
They got some gray hair, man. They got some gray hair.
They do, but with that, Joe, where they're late in the season, and there's some bangs and bruises, right? This is this is where you gotta make sure you get the win any way you can.
Yeah, talking about Kentucky specifically, I know before we got on the air here, we were talking about how Kentucky games are always just a street fight.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of weird in nature. They look really different some years. Sometimes they're kind of high scoring. Sometimes it's just a grudge match where it's a ground and pound 13-17 kind of game. I'm really excited to see what this year's matchup looks like. All I know is Kentucky's playing a lot better football than they started out playing.
Yep.
And Coach Stoops has done a really good job up there with his staff and his team from a player's perspective and as a coaching perspective. They always have a really complete team. It won't always be the most talented because they're not going to recruit like an Alabama or a Georgia or a Texas. They're not going to get those cats as much as those other teams will, but they always are very, very well coached, right? And so they hang around in a lot of games that people on the outside might not think, hey, how is Kentucky playing with, a Tennessee so close or a Texas so close? It's because they're really well coached. And Coach Stoops has been doing this a really long time. So I know for a fact they're not going to let, Vanderbilt's going to take this one very, very seriously. But I hope they come out swinging, because I think if you hit a team like Kentucky in the mouth that, I don't really think they know what their identity is yet. Are they an up and coming team that just had a down-ish year and had some inconsistency, or are they gonna just risk it all to make a splash at the end of the year and not really and kind of get away from what they've been doing the past few years? So you don't really know what kind of team you're going to get, but if Vanderbilt handles business and comes out swinging and is methodical, because like you said too, they're very similar to Vandy on offense from a philosophical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the time of possession is going to be a factor, but also finishing with touchdowns. We can't be sending Brock out
Yep.
there when we get across the 50 multiple times. We have to finish with touchdowns. I think if whoever finishes with touchdowns, their defense is going to play at a high level or at a standard. But I think it's going to be an offensive test for both teams.
Yeah, Cutter Boley playing well as of late for Kentucky, and that offense has gotten better. They lost a stretch of 4 straight SEC games there in the middle of the season, but beat Auburn and Florida back to back. So it's going to be a challenge, another SEC challenge for Vanderbilt. Mark Stoops, that their goal is to get to a bowl game, and they've got to beat Vanderbilt here, in order to do that. But for Vanderbilt, Joe, obviously 2:30 kickoff afternoon. It's going to be either on ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2. So it'll be a nice audience, at least for the TV audience there. And the line right now, Vanderbilt favored by 6.5 according to FanDuel. So head on over to FanDuel again if you want to.
That's a slim margin.
Yeah, I think I've seen it at 7.5. I've also seen some. It's been kind of going back and forth, at least from when I've been checking. But Joe, this game obviously is important. Everybody wants to talk about the Tennessee game though. And Jordan Matthews told us a couple of weeks back in the last episode, you got to take it day by day, week by week. Possession by possession, game by game, week by week, and especially
100%.
right now. It's a 1-week season. The playoffs start right now.
Yeah, and I was at practice yesterday, and the bye week is usually a time where you get rest and you get your guys back who are banged up. And I wouldn't say Vandy has a lot of injuries, because they don't. But I could from what I saw, they were allowing their guys to rest. Their guys are banged up. They're doing a great job of getting those guys back healthy. It gives also an opportunity for those guys who are maybe 2s, 3s, and 4s to get some more reps during practice, so that if they need to go into the game, they're more equipped. So I think Vandy's and the juice is still there. They had a lot of energy at practice. It was really fun to watch. But these bye weeks give everybody an opportunity to reset in ways that they need to. So I know that coming up, they got practice on Sunday. They're going to hit the ground running, and they're going to bring their A game on Saturday. It's always going to be perfect, no, but typically after a bye week, these guys tend to play really hard and they play really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is a great opportunity for them to reset, to finish this season out strong. But you got to be where your feet are. Just like Jordan said, be where your feet are, enjoy every moment, leave nothing on the table. And I think they're doing that. So I'm really pleased with how they're handling this week so far.
Yeah, we've talked about it, Joe. It's a mature group, and I'm glad you mentioned the coming off of a bye, because they have been really good under Tim Beck. Just if we're talking offense, right? They've been so good off of rest. 2 weeks rest before the bowl game last year. They had essentially a month to get ready for Georgia Tech and get healthy. So this bye week could not have come at a better time, Joe. But man, this is incredible. To me as a guy that's been in Nashville and grew up going to games, you obviously growing up in Louisiana. I don't think Vanderbilt was much of a thought. And then even when you're at Alabama, Vanderbilt was just the next team on your schedule for a certain week of the season. But for you as a player, you get to Vanderbilt as a player, and Ben hit on it. This is fun, man. It's really cool to see a Vanderbilt team, especially in the city of Nashville, no offense, but the Titans and Preds are really down right now. And I think the city of Nashville, I'm excited to see how they could rally around this team. And Jordan, I'm not talking playoff yet, right? I'm not, but man, but Clark hasn't ignored that, Joe. He said that we've embraced it. We've talked about it since January, and we're attacking it head on.
Well, that's what I think is different about this team. And the point in time of Vanderbilt football's history is that's the talk. That is the expectation. It's no looking back. It's no
What's nothing extra, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is what this is what we have been trying to build from the get-go. We're here. That's what our goal is going forward. Nothing less. So you're talking playoffs, you're talking national championship and SEC championship. That's where you need to be. That's where your minds need to be from a coaching perspective, players perspective, and staff perspective. And they're all in alignment. We've talked about that word, alignment and united. They're a united front with full alignment within the program. So I'm excited for them. Just like you said, man, I think it's great for the city to have Vanderbilt on the up and up for football and performing in a way that they are, because we're getting it's no news to anybody. Vanderbilt is getting a huge spotlight now because of this is the football team of Nashville. And I couldn't be more excited to be able to say that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And, I know there was some news in the college football playoff shifting around the committee chair. Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas AD. I don't know if you saw that, Joe. Unfortunately,
I did not.
Baylor athletic director Mac Rhodes is no longer the chair. Hunter Yurachek, Arkansas's AD, will be the chair of the college football playoff committee now. And again, that's sort of ancillary. Who knows what happens? But Vanderbilt's job right now is to win this week against Kentucky, obviously, and then go to Neyland and take down Tennessee. And we'll be talking all about that one, of course. But Joe, a little bit shortened this week, but man, I appreciate you for facilitating that with Ben. That was awesome. And I think people are gonna like some of the other alums we're gonna be able to have hop on here and some other just exciting things. So we're gonna
have a good lineup coming up. So we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Joe Bulovas. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Another week of Star V Sundays brought to you by Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. We will see.